Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to, I believe this is going to be the first reinstallment of Dingers, Dunks, and Drives presented by Rally Towel Sports because, Bobby, it's football season.
Dingers, dunks, and drives. What? I
That's
thought
what we call it.
is that what we called it? I thought we
Yeah.
called it line to gain.
No, that was just football only. Dingers, Dunks, and Drives is Wednesday night podcasted, baby.
Dude, I've been up since 4 a.m., so I'm just trying to. My brain's still like trying to recover.
Delirium starting to set in.
We're getting there, but we're here. We're here. I'm happy
here,
to be
baby.
here. Dingers,
We're
Dunks,
here.
and Drives on Wednesday night. Let's get it,
That's
baby.
right.
How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm back-to-back weeks for the first time for me doing the podcast in a little bit over a month. Obviously, I had some time off from doing the podcast with some vacation, and just to truth be told, just a little burnout. Boy, I got burnout before vacation. Work got a little hectic.
Oh yeah.
And getting ready for. I mean, I think the preparation to get into a vacation is equally as stressful as like having a timeline at work. Rob, what's up, my brother?
What up,
how you
baby?
doing, man?
Well, I mean, you got to think about it too. Like, it's not just you going on vacation; you have a child,
right?
So,
that's the thing.
That's a whole different level of vacationing.
It is. It's one of those things where, so obviously we stayed at a lake house. It was all of Mary's family, so let's call it 30 people in a house, approximately.
Night. And Rob will get into it. Just let us know what you want to talk about.
Yeah, brother, we're here to listen to you guys. Ask us put some questions in the chat. We're kind of we're going to riff on the Reds tonight because it's time. We've been putting it off. Let me rephrase it. I've been putting it off talking about them. I've given my little recaps a couple times during the season. I tried not to talk about them after the All-Star break, just in case I'm the problem, right? I think if superstition has taught us anything, is that you are the problem when your team loses. It's your fault. It's your fault that you didn't put your right sock on first.
You want to know how many different Reds hats I've been through in the last 3 weeks?
All of them. They're collecting dust, excuse me, in my closet.
I might just have to start wearing a Cubs hat, my Brewers hat. Just to see if I can give them some bad luck.
Switch it up a little bit.
I guess it's about that time where I unfortunately have to say once again, I told you so.
I know, dude. It pisses me off though. Let's hold off for a minute. I need to get the juices flowing.
All right, vacation, 30 people, Norris Lake.
Yeah. So you gotta get all the food, and I gotta tell you, packing a van with a child
that thing was filled to the brim.
It's the hardest game of Tetris you've ever played. And when I tell you that the van was riding low, it was riding low. Like, we got into the mountains of Tennessee, and I was like, I think this van might be too heavy.
Well, I mean, if anything, that weight's going to help you grip the roads a little bit, as long as they're not slippery.
Brother, when you're climbing a mountain, it don't matter if you got 110% grip or 10% grip. You got to climb that mountain, baby. And we struggled. The van hit a hill that I was like, I'm gonna blow the transmission. I had to drop her into low and just cruise it up.
Oh my goodness.
I was nervous. I was white knuckling the steering wheel by the time we got there. It was but I drank at least, I don't know, 90 beers over the course of a week at the bare minimum.
Good for you.
I mean, there were I believe, I don't know the exact statistics here, but I'm willing to share some rough statistics here. There was an entire refrigerator filled to the brim with beverages, and that includes 3 cases of beer in the garage waiting to be chilled. And when we left, there were 12 total beverages in the fridge.
Jesus. I love partying with the Freedies, man. It is a shit show.
Yeah. Oh, it was amazing, dude.
But it's the best time.
It's the best time, dude. And I'm super fortunate that I was able to marry into a family that is so nice and accepting and entertaining.
Yes.
And I had like a moment on the trip where I reached my capacity. of the roughly 30 people, half of it's kids. Of those kids, most of them are 10 or under. And I was like, I told Mary, I was like, I need a minute. I just need a little bit of time in a dark room to just get my composure back, because I got a little overwhelmed. A lot of kids running around screaming. I'm the uncle that throws the kids in the lake,
Yeah.
So I was like, I need a break, and maybe it was. I have a little riff too, because I stopped at Party Source on the way down. Right, Party Source being
Did you see
the best
John?
liquor store. I did not see John. I actively looked for him. I almost texted him, and I was like, I got to get back. When you're traveling, your mindset is like, I got to get down to where I need to get to as soon as possible. So my objective when we walked in there was like, I need to get
in, out.
I need to get these 10 different things, get to the cash register, get back out, be on the road in 30 minutes, right?
For those of you not from the tri-state area of Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, Party Source is the largest store that sells alcohol. And by largest store, I mean this store is like a Walmart, and it's all alcohol.
Yeah, I was gonna say, imagine like a Walmart or a Meijer or a Target for alcohol. That's it.
That's it. It's all alcohol. There's no produce section. There's no meat, cheese. There's no deli.
There's a deli in there. There is a deli in there.
Is there a deli in there?
There's a restaurant in there now. And then if you're geographically in the Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana area, there's Braxton Brewing has a tap room attached now, which Braxton makes a ton of great beers.
Yes. All right. Anyways, you're there. You're in and out.
They don't sell Lady Bly at Party Source.
They don't sell the captain's wife there, huh?
Yeah, I was upset, so I had to drink the Admiral. It's Admiral Nelson.
Oh, I know the Admiral.
Yeah, so equally as delightful. Not as much of not as what I wanted out of a whole handle of rum, but he did the job.
I know you like your sweet rum, your sweet spiced rum.
I do. It's and if you're on the lake, that's a nice lake beverage. A little rum and Dr. Pepper Zero.
Well, I will say that whenever you make those for me when I'm at your place, it's but those things will get you messed up quick. So
my brother-in-law asked me, we were outside. He was cooking on a Blackstone, and he was like, how many of those do you think you've made in your life? And I said, thousands at this point.
Oh, the rum and cokes.
I've been making
the rum and sodas.
Like 17 or 18. So
yeah,
thousands. It's my go-to drink. It's my drink at home if I have the options available, and if not, I just drive to the liquor store and get my things. But
right,
it's my go-to beverage. I've been drinking. It's the one thing that I found that if I have a hangover, I don't feel like shit. I just have a headache. Little liquid IV, some Tylenol, boom, I'm good to go, baby. But it was a good trip, and but yeah, it was quite the experience. My liver was upset for 4 days afterwards. I thought I was going to come back and go to the gym the next day.
No, absolutely not.
I needed like a whole week to go back.
Yeah, you need to. You need to let the body recover. Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. I'm glad you had a great time. You definitely needed the time off, and
I did.
Well deserved.
I'm charged back up, baby. I'm charged back up.
I can see it, man. I see the batteries are at 100%. It's a good thing to see.
They are.
All right, well, let's get into it here. Let's not put it off anymore than we have to. Pop's coming with a comment. The Reds are not fundamentally sound, nor their leaders. But prior to the All-Star break, we were seeing what great leadership they had, from a player perspective. We were talking about, how exciting this team was to watch. And, going into the All-Star break, it was disappointing that they lost, a couple games in Milwaukee and then went into the break. And it's kind of just been that vibe ever since. They had, I think they went 15 and 11 in July. And 7 of their 11 losses came to Milwaukee again.
Went 2 and 13 against the Brewers this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, that was the main focal point of that month for me was what we did against Milwaukee. That was going to dictate the rest of our season, and unfortunately, I was right. Um, they are not playing good baseball right now. There's some very poor decision making happening. There are a few games that David Bell has been responsible for, but he is not the only party that's at fault. I think he's the first one that's going to be taking blame because he is the coach. But you have to look at some of that veteran leadership on the team as well. And as much as I love Ellie De La Cruz, he makes mistakes consistently that I really, really, really don't like. For example, today, he hit a line shot up the middle, had a clear single. He tried to push it for 2, got gunned down because he tried to stretch it out when they were up 4-1. At that point, you don't try to stretch that. You get on base, you make the pitcher sweat, and let the pitcher make a mistake to the batter because chances are you're going to take second base anyway.
Right. That's what I was going.
Yeah. There's no point to try to push 2 because you can steal that bag on the next pitch.
Right.
When it's a much better opportunity.
So I think that there's 3 parts to me player wise that I think that are kind of trickling into the losing habit that the Reds are in right now. Number 1, Jonathan India has been injured. I think it's proven to me watching the Reds in the last 2 weeks how pertinent his leadership is in the dugout. I guess you see it, right? As a baseball fan, you see what Jonathan India is because he's so good at being a teammate. He's good on the field, and he has a general presence about him that exudes that leadership trait, right? I think that there's certain athletes, you look at them and you see the way they carry themselves and the way that they play the game. And you're like, this person, they understand what their role is within the team, right? And Jonathan India does a really good job at that. And not having him in the lineup, now he's in the dugout, but not having him in the lineup hurts the Reds significantly.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. The last couple of weeks have proven that, and I mean, thank God they didn't end up trading him.
Yeah,
because he was the only one that was on the block. He was the only one that was on the block for the Reds, and thank God that nothing really ever came of it. Because if it did, we would be looking at this same story next season.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, look, here's the thing. So let's talk about the trade deadline. We'll talk about the trade deadline a little bit because I think that that's important too. Because last year, it was a full seller's market for the Reds, right? Tyler Mahle, Luis Castillo, Tyler Naquin, Tommy Pham, all gone at the trade deadline. That in return has brought Noelvi Marte, your best player, your top second level prospect in the minor leagues, Christian Encarnacion Strand, who is your everyday DH or first baseman, and Spencer Steer, who, if Corbin Carroll wasn't in the National League, would be the unanimous Rookie of the Year in the National League, right? That's 3 pieces that you got out of the trades last year. Obviously, there's some other people mixed in there from Seattle as well. Connor Phillips is one of the Reds' top pitchers in the farm system as well. So last year was big. Like they
did a great job.
Sell, and everybody was like, "Oh, I get it. It's all this talent. It's prospects. You're building to the future." And then you get to this year, and part of the blame goes to either Cincinnati sports media or the front office because Nick Krall said that they were going to be buyers at the trade deadline,
and they weren't.
They went out and got what they needed, which was another left-handed reliever. Right. So I'm fine with what they did. Right. So let me be clear. I'm fine that they went and got Sam Moll, and that was the deal that they made. Now he didn't pitch well today, but I would have been pissed if they would have traded a Jonathan India for a starter. I would have, especially a starter that you don't have any control over after this year. And that was my big thing for them after, like Aaron Savali and Giolito and Lance Lynn, those guys got traded because there's team control after the season for a couple of those guys. And you don't have that if you get Michael Lorenzen or Eduardo Rodriguez or Shane Bieber. Like those guys are free agents after this year. So that's just a rental, right? The Reds are not in the market to be a rental franchise.
No.
This is again, I want to remind everybody, this is still a build. They're still building to what they need to get to.
What's happened this season is just icing on the cake.
It's a trailer, right? It's a trailer to the movie, in my opinion. You got to see a flash of what everything firing on all cylinders looks like. Ellie De La Cruz came up and was the number one headline on ESPN, right? Hits for the cycle, has 6 home runs in his first 21 games or 18 games, steals 10 bags in his first 18 games. It's exciting. It's flashy. It's fun.
Now he's come back down to earth.
But what's happened now is that teams have data. They have the numbers that show, okay, Ellie De La Cruz swings 55% of the time at the first pitch. I'm going to throw him a breaking ball. Or I'm going to throw something out of the zone intentionally. And that kind of gets into my next point. What the fuck is he doing batting leadoff?
I think that's the worst thing that
It's
David
horrible.
Bell's done is put him there. He
You
struggled.
have TJ Friedel, who has proven to be a plate disciplined, contact first, get on base player. He has the third or fourth
Ellie
highest
needs
OPS
to be
on the team.
2 or 3 in that line.
I think Ellie needs to be 4 or 5, in my opinion. I would much rather him be in the second inning of a lineup than batting him leadoff. You know how many? So I looked into it because I wanted to see how many pitches did Ellie De La Cruz see in at bat, because that's important. When you think about a leadoff hitter, you should see 6 pitches minimum. He sees about 3.5 pitches in at bat.
Yeah, it's not going to get it done.
That's not enough. That's not enough. And he's aggressive by nature. And a leadoff hitter traditionally isn't aggressive. They're not aggressive because they're trying to create a count. They're looking for a starting pitcher. You're trying to see at least 3 of 5 pitches or 2 of 4 pitches from a starting pitcher from a leadoff hitter. You're putting the repertoire out on the table for hitters 2 through 9. That's your objective as a leadoff hitter, or at least my understanding of it. And now, obviously, Kyle Schwarber's batted leadoff and Aaron Judge has batted leadoff. Those are power hitters. Ellie De La Cruz is a power hitter. But you know what both of those guys do? They walk a lot. They get on base a lot. Kyle Schwarber is hitting less than 200 and has a higher on-base percentage than anybody on the Reds, except for Will Benson. Because he walks a lot. He creates deep counts. Now, does he strike out a lot? Absolutely. He sure does. But he averages almost 8 pitches in at bat, 7, 8 pitches in at bat. And that's what you want out of a leadoff hitter. That is their objective. And I think that the way that the lineup is being set up is they're not winning games with this lineup. And shame on David Bell for not making the adjustment. Right? I think that's where this, now we're talking about how coaching is impacting the game and how David Bell specifically as a manager is impacting a game, because he gets a lot of roster blame. And I want to make sure anybody that's listening now or listening later is aware he has no decision on who's on the roster. That's the GM. The GM makes the roster decision. So don't blame the roster decisions on David Bell, but you can blame in-game decisions on David Bell.
Absolutely.
You could blame Ellie De La Cruz continuing to bat leadoff on David Bell, because he is ultimately, even if Nick Krall goes to him and says, you need to bat Ellie De La Cruz leadoff the rest of the year, or I'm fining you $10,000. If you want to win, you're like, well, I'll write you a check now. Move him out of the lineup, right? Make the decision. So ultimately, that's where David Bell kind of comes into. You can place some blame on him because the lineup it sucks right now.
Yeah, there's no flow to it.
No momentum. There's a lot of 1, 2, 3 innings right now. And I watched all of the game on Sunday, and their best hitter on Sunday was Stuart Fairchild, who was batting 9th. He had the best game. And
I really like Fairchild. I think he's a really nice piece.
And Barry Larkin was saying this about him, and I don't agree with Barry Larkin too often, or I don't really particularly enjoy listening to him in game. I think that he doesn't. Michael Lorenzen just threw a no-hitter. Here's an update for the night. Michael Lorenzen finished a no-no for the Phillies.
Good for him.
First since 2015, which was Roy Halladay against the Reds.
R.I.P.
But yeah, so I think that's where you can start placing a little bit of blame on David Bell is the lineup sucks. There's no momentum, and you see a lot of, was it Saturday? I think Saturday where they had the bases loaded in the bottom of the 8th and didn't do anything, no runs. Like that can't happen either. You can't have the bases loaded less than 2 outs and not produce at least a run, right? So again, I think that's where, the ebbs and flows of the lineup start kind of playing into why things aren't going well for Cincinnati right now. Because if you start off the game 1-2-3, then you're not setting up a guy like Fraley or Friedel now who's batting second or third, or Matt McLean to knock him in. And that's why they bat 3, 4, 5. Right? And then you're relying on Joey Votto to hit he has as many home runs as he does singles this year. He has 13 singles, 13 home runs.
Yeah, he decided to start hitting for power.
Right, but he has to because nobody's ever on base when he gets up. And when they are, he's been in those situations where runners are in scoring position. That's his only stat right now that's over 200. He's producing runs when he has runners in scoring position. But half the time when he comes up, the majority of the time when he comes up, there's nobody on base. Or there's 2 outs already.
Yeah.
And 1 run, if you're down by 3, you're not tying the game, or maybe you're not back in the game by that point, right? So I think lineup flow has been a big problem for the Reds of the last 3 weeks. I guess you would say now, because we're talking about them losing 9 of their last 10 of their last 16. So we're
and I mean, there's quite a few games, over this last little stretch that they've lost after the 8th inning.
Yep.
Due to pitching, and not necessarily pitching, but decisions regarding who's staying in the game and who's coming in to pitch.
Right. So let's talk about the Nationals game, because I think there was a Nationals game last week that I texted you out of frustration afterwards because I'm screaming at my phone.
He Todd, and I quote, "Your dad can blame David Bell for this one."
Yeah. Because he is to blame. So you get into the bottom of the 8th. First runner gets on, who is Christian Encarnacion Strand.
Mm-hmm.
And they sub in Nick Senzel. Bases loaded, nobody scores. You have just burned your other right-handed bat, the only other right-handed bat you had on your bench, to pinch run in a tie game where you still have another inning to hit. And 5 and 6 were coming, or 6 and 7 were coming up after Strand. You don't need speed in that situation. Speed is not required in the bottom of the 8th when the game's tied.
No.
Now, if it's the bottom of the 9th, sure. Throw a pinch runner in. No outs, 1 out. Throw a pinch runner on first base, but force a bag, right? Force a steal. Do something. Create some sort of situation that justifies bringing in speed, especially with the volume of stolen bases this year. Didn't do that. So you come back out the next inning, and Diaz pitches the 8th, right? I'm sorry, he pitches the 9th, keeps the game tied, and then what happens? He fucking brings him back out to pitch more than an inning. He is your closer. If you have nobody else in a situation of a tie ball game to bring in, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
And I think that's, a lot of that is a testament to the lack of innings pitched by starting pitching for the Reds too. I believe the Reds are 28th or 29th in Major League Baseball and averaged and an average start, right? So what I mean by that is the amount of innings pitched by a starter. And that's only come up in the last 2 weeks because Chris Ashcraft has gone 8 and 7. It was less than 5 innings all year.
Yeah.
That's horrible,
dude. I will say that Ashcraft and Abbott have been pretty good over the last couple of weeks.
Graham Ashcraft has been one of the best pitchers in baseball since he's come off the injured list.
Yeah.
Sub-2 ERA is getting like almost 90% ground ball outs right now, which is insane. That's an insane. It's like 86% ground ball outs right now. That's nuts. And he's averaging like 10 Ks a game, 8 Ks a game. Sorry. And he's pitching great. So that guy, even today, he threw 7 great innings and they lost in the 9th because Diaz pitched his 55th game of the year. There was still a month and a half of regular season baseball. Why is your closer pitching 55 games? That's a legitimate problem.
In situations that aren't save opportunities.
That was not a save opportunity when he came in.
That's
it was
what
a
I'm
tie. Don't do that. Do not bring him in when the game's tied. Bring in Lucas Sims when the game's tied. Bring in Jabot when the game's tied. Bring in Alex Young or Derek Law. Bring in those guys when the game is tied. When you're winning and you need 3 outs after you grab a run, that's when you bring Diaz in. I'm so sick of Diaz coming in non-safe situations.
Yeah,
it's a horrible
burning
decision.
them out.
It's a horrible.
And then when the save comes along, he's going to be worn out.
He's pitched as many games this year as he did last year. There's still a month and a half of baseball. Buck Farmer has pitched 53 games. I don't ever want to say that sentence. There's no reason he should be out there that much. There's no reason that Jabot should be out there for 52 games. It's horrendous, dude. And it's a lot of it is and look, here's the thing. I think a lot of people are quick to blame David Bell for pulling these starters so quickly. But when you're at 90 pitches after the 4th inning, do you risk putting him out there for a 3rd time through the lineup? Seriously, do you? If you're struggling through 4.
No, you don't.
No, you don't. If Hunter Green has thrown 94 pitches through 4 innings and he has 8 strikeouts, that's enough. That's enough. That's enough. You can't ask for much more than that from him.
Yeah, because if he goes out there, he's going to be well into the 110s. By the time that inning's over, and he's not going to be shit next time he comes on the mound.
No,
what does that extra inning do for you anyway? Because you're going to have to dig into the bullpen for 4 or 5 innings regardless.
Right. So that's kind of where I stand on that, is that you're looking at a team that doesn't average 5 innings a start because pitch count's always bad.
Yeah, I would say that's probably my biggest disappointment this year has just been the starting pitching. We all knew it wasn't going to be great going in. We had some hopes there, but Lodolo and Green, not really being much of a presence this year due to injury.
That sucks. That's killed.
It sucks because I think the Reds season goes a lot differently, especially over this last month and a half stretch if those guys are healthy.
Imagine Nick Lodolo pitching on Sunday instead of bringing up Lyon Richardson, who's on an inning capacity this year.
Yeah, got 2 his debut back-to-back home runs. Like that's just devastating. Like do you even take the mound after that? Like
right.
Like do you have the mental fortitude to take the mound in the major league game again, knowing that like your first 2 pitches in the MLB were both taken real deep? They weren't just over the wall. Those things were fucking hammered.
Well, here's the thing is that he threw 2 fastballs right down the middle as well. That doesn't help his case. But I agree with you because every time I see Luke Weaver starting a game, I lose a year of my life. I do because I am infuriated by watching him pitch. You know how many 1-2 counts he gets in and loses?
Oh, a ton.
It's a third of the time.
I don't know the stat, but
it's almost a third of the time. It's nuts. To be in a 1-2 count, you are in the driver's seat and full control. And 1 out of 3 times he loses control of that bat.
And like the statistics that shows like the amount of people that actually like get outs off of 1-2 counts, it is astronomically high.
Yeah, a player's batting average in a 1-2 counts less than 200. Against Luke Weaver, it's damn near 300. That's it. Oh man, I get
it shouldn't happen.
If he's not DFA'd when Lodolo and Green come back, I don't know what the Reds are doing.
Yeah,
seriously, because they get Antone back at the same time. Just you tell them like, hey, congratulations on getting 90% of your paycheck this year. Now, go somewhere else. Go away.
So. Out of all of this, let's kind of spin this and put it on a positive note before we move on. What's the silver lining here? What's the silver lining for the Red season this year?
you have 4 of the best young players in the National League in your everyday lineup. And you'll have 5 next year when Novelli Marte is ready.
Yeah, I think I've had a lot of people asking me, like, because I was very firm about my stance, going into July when the Reds were smoking hot, and I was still telling people to temper their expectations because things can turn, and they turned. And the thing with this team is that they are still extremely young, and there's been a lot of injury to some major components of their bullpen, and that's really
In
the
the
one reason.
rotation.
Yeah, that's the one reason why they really haven't been ultra competitive. Because I mean, when they went on that run, the offense was just doing things that we've never seen.
Right. And I think an important part of that too is a lot of the comeback wins. They were getting deep into counts as hitters. They were patient. Yeah. They were getting on base, and these guys are still hitting the ball hard, but things were falling. The ball just isn't going. The ball's not in their favor right now either. I watched 5 or 6 line drives turn into outs. Like at the beginning of July, it was all falling. Everything was falling. There were 3 people hitting over 300. Everything was falling. Balls going all over the place. And that's unfortunately that's baseball. Yeah. Occasionally, luck does not swing your way in baseball, and sometimes it's a legitimate. It's one of those things where if one person in the dugout gets cold, sometimes 3 or 4 do, because that shit just spreads. It's like a cold. Yeah, it just spreads.
Well, here's the thing. The Reds are 2.5 games back. There's still a month and a half left in this season. Can they turn it around? Yes, they can. Will they? Don't get your hopes up, because there's the Brewers and the Cubs are both playing extremely good baseball right now. And for the most part, they've got the Reds number.
Especially the Cubs.
So the NL Central has a lot of very good baseball teams. And this is one year that we can say the Cardinals aren't one of them. Which that, there's a little happiness brought in there. Sorry to the Cardinals fans that I know follow this channel, but yeah, the Reds are going to be looking very, very good next season, and I think my expectations and outlook is going to be much different going into next season as long as people stay healthy, and we can actually put a team on that field with the correct lineup consistently. So.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think
go ahead.
There are several pieces at play here that Reds fans dude. Imagine
we have to be like the Reds going into the first inning. We got to be patient at the plate. We got to be patient with these guys.
So you got to think, right? So you have Spencer Steer, who I still stand by would be the number 1 candidate for NL Rookie of the Year if Corbin Carroll's not in the league.
He's ridiculous.
You have Matt McClain, who would be number 2 in my voting. If he's number 3 in my voting now, right? You have the top prospect in baseball on your active roster, who is 21. So, yes, does Ellie De La Cruz make mistakes? Yes, but he's 21. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. had a lot of the same things said about him early in his time in Montreal. Carl, thanks for liking the stream, man. So don't forget that these young guys, I think that there's a lot to be said about getting the at-bats and letting them make the mistakes at this level. So you don't bring them up and expect them to be 100% fine-tuned, right? So I don't like him making mistakes in critical parts of a game, but when there's a big lead, if he wants to stretch a single into a double, do it.
Yeah, try to make a play. Try to get some momentum rolling.
Charlie, thanks for liking the stream. Yeah, so I think that there's a place and time for his flashiness. I just think that it's not necessary right now because they're not winning.
He needs it. I think it's going to come with time, but I think he still needs to learn, just from an IQ standpoint of when to go for it and when to not. I think there's a lot of guys, I think the energy is contagious. Like he makes that play, then I think things change differently.
Yeah.
But when he tries to make that play, the momentum shifts onto the other team, and he has to understand how important, him going for that, is not only for his team, but for the other team.
Yeah.
And making sure that you're not shifting momentum to them or giving them an opportunity to get the momentum, even when you have a lead, because we all know things in baseball can change extremely quickly. So just knowing when to go for it and when to not go for it and making better decisions, which he's 21, he's young. It's going to come with time. He's going to make more mistakes now than he will moving forward, and everything's a learning experience. So
yeah. I think that he's actually out of position. I think he should be the center fielder for the Reds of the future.
Oh, for sure.
I think that
he's got the arm for it too.
I think this offseason, you take his infield glove away, stick an outfield glove on that left hand, and say, go catch fly balls and figure out how to play this. I really do.
That dude's an athlete.
He's an athlete.
There won't be much adjustment there outside of just judging.
But I think it needs to happen. It's not an in-season move, right? I'm not saying to put him in center field right now, but this offseason, commit him to working in the outfield. And then you can play India at second, McLean at short, and Novelli Marte at third base, or you could put India at third and McLean at second, Marte at short. You could interchange those parts. And you could put Spencer Steer and Encarnacion straight at first base and rotate him at DH if you got to do it. And then you have Fraley, De La Cruz, and TJ Friedel in your outfield. Or Will
That's
Benson.
A sick lineup, man. That's a really damn good lineup. And the Reds have all of those pieces, which is wild to think about. The Reds haven't had a roster this stacked, and since I don't know, I can't remember the last time they had a roster that was this good.
Well, the thing is that it's all middle infielders too. That's the part where it gets kind of tedious because there's so many guys that play second, third, and short, or short and third, that one of them has to make the position change. I'm not moving Matt McLean out of the center, out of middle infield ever.
No.
The Reds have found their Jeff Kent. Seriously, Matt McLean to me is what Jeff Kent was to baseball 20 years ago.
Yeah, Matt McLean is unbelievable.
He's the best. He's the best hitter the Reds have. I don't know why people ever have thought otherwise, and who is in this lineup right now besides Joey Votto. Obviously,
if I had to choose two people that I like, two of the four young guys that they have that I didn't want to lose, it'd be Matt McLean and Spencer Steer.
Absolutely.
Those are the two guys that I would build my foundation on.
Matt McLean has the ability to be a 30-30 guy. He does. Yeah. He has that ability, power-wise, speed-wise, IQ-wise. I mean, you're not a first-round pick 2 times without being super talented, right? Like, it just doesn't happen that way. And he's a gift to the Reds. I mean, I remember the conversation you and I had after they drafted him, and I was talking to you about it. I was like, they found their second baseman of the future. Like that, he's a guy that I certainly hope the Reds lock in on a long-term deal after this season, before next season. Yeah, I would love to see him in a long-term
get that contract done. So
yeah, because you got to have him in that lineup. You got to have him in the lineup. If you're willing to part ways with Jonathan India, you have to lock in Matt McLean.
Yeah,
because I think Matt McLean is better than Jonathan India, and that Jonathan India was the NL Rookie of the Year 2 years ago. Don't forget that. So, yeah, I mean, you're right, dude. You hit the nail on the head. It's been a very, very long time. I'm thinking around like the Jay Bruce, Joey Votto early era, that there's been this much talent that has been homegrown in the lineup at the same time.
Yeah,
seriously, that's 12 years, 13 years ago. So it's been a long time.
It's been a long time coming. So
yeah. So just, if for Reds fans that are listening now, listening later, relax. It's frustrating to watch your favorite team lose. I get it. I'm not sitting here and telling you that I don't get upset when they lose, because I do. I still get pissed off about it. I get pissed when bad decisions are made. I get pissed when these young guys make bad moves. but everything, all of the winning and all of the flash is it's an appetizer to the main course. So just be patient. The main course is coming soon. It's getting to your table soon. Just spend some time, chat, have another drink, relax. Just relax. It's coming. Pitching's got to come down too. We don't have the bullpen's not set. The rotation's not set. It'll be here.
It'll be here before we know it. It'll be here before we know it.
Don't complain about their cooking your ribs too long. The ribs are fine. They've been slow cooking for a while. They'll still fall off the bone when you want them to fall off the bone. Just don't rush it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's our little 40-minute soapbox on the Reds. We'll kind of shift gears a little bit, kind of switch it up. You know, if you guys have any questions, we're gonna kind of transition into some football talk here, and just kind of hang out and talk football. Obviously, everybody's got fantasy football drafts coming up, so that's going to be super exciting. I've got the number 1 pick in one of my leagues, so I'm super stoked about that. I'm ready for football to be here already, and it's just not coming fast enough.
Been there.
We all have.
No, dude, it's a weird time, man, because we're getting little teasers, right? Obviously, the first episode of Hard Knocks is out and available on.
Haven't watched it yet
on Max. I haven't watched it yet either. So Aaron said something in our group chat this afternoon that really turned me off from watching it. That it's kind of it's an Aaron Rodgers love fest, or I believe he called it a slob fest.
The knob slob job.
Yeah. So I don't have any interest in watching that, so I'll wait until next week's episode comes out and I'll watch them together, and I can piece together what I want to piece together from the first episode and watch something where I care about it, because Aaron Rodgers has had so much national media attention that I don't owe him any more of my time. But we got to watch live football last Thursday. We got to watch the Browns and the Jets play in the Hall of Fame game. Obviously, training camp is in full force. NFL Twitter's popping off. Fights are happening on these practices. Like, football's back. I'm here for it. It's going to be interesting because a rival of ours in the AFC North is riding a 23-game preseason streak. That is the Baltimore Ravens. They've won 23 preseason games in a row.
Dang.
Will they continue the preseason streak? That's it. That's one of those. That's one of those things.
What is their? Let me look up their preseason schedule here.
I know that they play. I don't know who they play this week, but I know the last 2 games are the Bucks and the Commanders. They might because the Bengals play the Packers.
There's also something else that went down in Baltimore that we didn't talk about while we were on the baseball topic, but it's also a travesty. Let's see. They play in order. They play the Eagles.
Eagles, that's right.
The Commanders, the Buccaneers, that is the preseason.
3 weeks.
It's 3 games now. It's not 4.
Yep.
I forgot they took one out and made one a regular season game. So
yeah. So will the Ravens be able to continue this oddly, very strong streak?
I think it ends against the Eagles.
I hope so.
I don't see the Eagles. Even in preseason game, I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I would love to see the Eagles beat the Ravens. Nothing makes me happier than seeing the Ravens lose. But yeah, dude, football's here, and for those of you participating in fantasy football, don't rush it. Take a little bit of time. You don't need to lock into your first round pick today, because you probably got at least 2 more weeks until you're drafting. If you're drafting this early in a fantasy football league, the league is setting you up to fail. So you got a couple weeks.
Because we have no idea what's happening with Jonathan Taylor at this point.
He's gone. He walked out. He walked out today.
I understand that, but so does that mean he's not playing the whole season?
I don't know. He just walked out.
That's what I'm saying. We don't know what's happening right now. There's still a lot to unfold there.
Right. And I think for those who are new-ish or eager in fantasy football, please don't let the preseason sway you in any direction of who you need to draft, especially in the rookies. If Bryce Young and CJ Stroud or Anthony Richardson have good preseason games, they don't have to be your quarterback. You don't have to draft him in
It's the preseason. They're
fourth
going
or
up
fifth
against
round,
second team most likely,
or third, or guys trying to make the roster. So don't do that. Don't put yourself in that scenario. Take your time, do your homework, check your top 300 lists, get your strength by position for whatever type of league you're in, whether it's a standard or a PPR. Don't look back at last year and think, oh, if I'd have drafted this guy, I would have made the playoffs. It's a new year. It's new money that you're putting into the pot.
Happen.
Just here's the thing. You're talking to a guy that got fully invested in a Michael Pittman Jr.
Oh, dude, I was all in on Michael Pittman last year.
I drafted him everywhere. 3 of the 4 leagues I was in last year, I drafted him.
Crushed me.
And and maybe my ego gets too big sometimes in fantasy football, but I couldn't drop him because I just thought like the week's coming where he's going to turn it around.
It's coming.
Matt Ryan can't be this bad. And then all of a sudden Sam Erlinger starts and you're like, oh shit, I
had Matt Ryan last year. I know how bad Matt Ryan was.
So to be clear, so when you say that, the league that we're in where you had Matt Ryan, it's a quarterback.
It's a 2 super flex league.
Yeah. So you can play 3 quarterbacks a week. Yeah.
You have to almost.
You do, because that's where all the points fall. So
unless you have like a receiver that is
right,
amazing,
unless you have Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Devontae Adams, or Tyreek Hill, which I had Tyreek Hill and Jamar Chase last year in that league, and I still didn't win because my quarterbacks weren't good enough. I lost.
Yeah, and Tua got hurt. So
Tua killed me. I had Tua. Tua got hurt, killed me. Regardless, see, I'm talking about it. It's in the past. It's over. I lost $20 in that league, right? I lost $50 in a couple leagues, but that's the thing. I've earned some more money. I could put that money back into the pot, play some fantasy football, and just if you're drafting with your buddies, have fun. Don't stress out about it. If the guy right before you drafts the person you're going to draft, don't make a scene.
Don't take your lumps. Guy.
Don't take your lumps. And if the round is ruined because somebody took Devontae Adams when you were going to take Devontae Adams, you're ill-equipped to be in a fantasy football league.
Yeah, you always have to have a plan B and a plan C.
Yeah,
and sometimes a plan D.
Here's the thing: if you're drafted in that 5 through 8 spot, you are at.
It is a toss-up.
Yeah, I mean, if in a PPR league, you are just banking on somebody and picks 2 through 4 or 2 through 5 to make a critical error, so you could just jump right in, right?
Oh, for sure.
Just enjoy the draft. If you're doing it with your friends, celebrate it, make the most of it, have fun with it. And the best advice I can give you from someone that's played fantasy football for about 13 years now, every time you take a shit, just open up the fantasy app. Couple minutes.
What's the fantasy football leagues are not won on draft night. They are won on the waiver wire.
I thought you were going to say on the toilet, because that's true.
They're also one on the toilet. Those are the 2 places they are one. The toilet that's when you peruse the waiver wire.
That's when you're perusing. That's right. What's the phrase? Boss takes $1. Something, I get a dime. I'm always going to poop on company time. Something like that. Make sure you take a poop on company time.
Something to that effect.
You get to work. All your duties are taken care of. You got everything set up. A little tinker stinker ain't going to hurt.
Yeah, absolutely not. Just 10, 15. You're right in the middle. Right, you're settled in at work. You got your immediate shit out of the way. It's before lunch. Take a look at fantasy. Open up ESPN.
You know what? It's Tuesday afternoon. The wire opens up Wednesday morning. Take that morning dump. Take your time.
Take an extra 5 minutes.
That's right. That's your time. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your time. Take your time. Leagues are won on a tinker stinker. I firmly believe that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because you make a valid point, because the waiver wire does, because here's the thing. When you maybe like for me last year in the Superflex League, losing Tua, that hurts because when you lose a top 15 quarterback in that league, you are at such a significant disadvantage for the rest of the time that they're injured.
Well, I will say that my season was lost on draft night last year.
Yeah, you had a tough draft.
I did not.
And you drafted 10th. You drafted 10th last year, right?
Yes, I did.
So I think that if things didn't go, and that's the thing about this league, because by the time you draft 10th, you're drafting likely, because this league's so crazy, you're drafting the 10th best quarterback. You are. Because usually there's 9 quarterbacks taken before that, and that's
tough because there's a significant drop off after like 4, let alone like 5 through 9.
Yeah, well, because again, this league is heavily favored to the running quarterback. So when you lose Jalen Lamar, I'm interested to see, because I think my pick's like 5 or 6. I think Justin Fields might be drafted in the first 4 picks.
You think so?
I do. I think Justin Fields will be drafted before Joe Burrow.
I don't think so.
I think so.
I would put some cheese on that.
In that league, that makes the most sense because it's more points for a quarterback rushing for yards.
I don't disagree with you because I think it's really smart. I knew there's no way in hell that he was going to fall back to me in the late second round. But if he does, that was kind of like my sleeper QB. But I don't think he's going to make it back to me, at least in that league. There's too many people that are like, we play with a bunch of intelligent people in that league, especially people that have been in it and know how it works for a long ass time. So I doubt it's a super competitive league. So I'm surprised. I'm surprised that that was the first time I'd ever finished dead last. Yeah, I usually I'm about 50-50 making the playoffs each year. I'm not the best fantasy football player, but I'm not the worst.
Yeah. No,
I know where I stack up in this league, and I am not in that upper echelon of players. I would say it's like you, Josh, Uncle Bobby, and
Uncle Bobby's the best regular season fantasy football owner I've ever seen.
He does a really nice job.
Dude, he gets crushed in the playoffs. I've never seen somebody have worse luck than him in the playoffs.
The crown for bad luck goes to Pops. He always gets just an exorbitant amount of injuries. Doesn't matter who he picks.
So I think for fantasy sports in general, your dad has the worst luck.
Yeah, it's been pretty bad.
It always happened to him in basketball too.
It did.
Always.
He always had good ass teams, and they always got hurt.
Always. It's horrible. I felt so bad for him. But yeah, dude, fantasy footballs, I think that for me, it's the, even as a parent now, it changed for me, right? Because, obviously I love being a dad. It's the best thing that's happened to me. So but the opportunity to get a couple hours of just like hanging out and just talking about sports and not having somebody tug at your shorts or interrupt your conversation because you're not paying attention to them. Again, I love Declan more than anything in the world, but like it's nice to be able to just sit down and like open a couple beers and just talk.
Yeah. The best part of that day is just standing over the draft boards and just looking down at everything and just talking.
Yeah, it really is. It's fantasy football is a great thing. Everybody, enjoy it. It's if you're feeling frisky, DraftKings has incredible weekly leagues that you can be a part of.
Well, now there's actual gambling. I don't really do those live lineups anymore.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, here's the thing, though, is I think that there's still some money to be made doing that, though.
Oh, there definitely is. There definitely is. I tried. I hit sometimes, but I lost more than I won.
That funded my DraftKings account.
Yeah, fair enough.
Last year. Once January rolled around, my DraftKings account was funded by doing weekly fantasy leagues. Because I had like certain amount of dollars in the pot. So when those boosters came around and I put a little extra money in, I had some money to play with on DraftKings.
Yeah. I
It was
can't wait. I
nice.
can't wait to get back into it. I'm putting some funds aside so I can start gambling on football when it comes around.
I know, dude. I dabbled in baseball this year, and a lot of it is just so baseball betting is funny because a lot of it
I'm
is
up
like
baseball wise. I'm up a lot.
I do a lot of like low dollar. I'm talking like $1, right, for like a 4-leg parlay of like no hits in the first inning from either team, no runs after 3, like those kind of parlays. And I've had some pretty decent success doing that because I think baseball is one of those sports where like I don't bet on the player. Freddie Freeman goes 0 for 4 sometimes. You know,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like you got to think about that.
Anybody can have a bad day at the dish.
Yeah, and I got burned by Ronald Acuna early in the year where I thought it was a surefire thing where he was like a career 600 hitter against a starter, and he went for a golden sombrero, and I'm like, well, fuck, if he would have just got hit, I would have won $20.
Right.
So, football is a lot more fun to follow, and like once you learn your cadence of like a parlay or doing like your prop bets, like it's a lot more entertaining than baseball is.
Oh yeah. Yeah, basketball and football are like my wheelhouse when it comes to gambling.
Yeah.
But baseball is not. But I did win like 370 on the Reds earlier this year. So
Damn. Speaking of betting, did you see that ESPN is getting their own sports book?
shocker.
So Barstool Sports was a partner with Penn Sports, who that's their business is sports gambling, sports betting, and they partnered with ESPN. So if you're in a Hollywood casino with a Barstool Sportsbook, it's going to become an ESPN Sportsbook very soon.
Wow!
Like immediately. So congratulations to Dave Portnoy, who basically got Barstool Sports back for free. Pretty good deal for him. It's worth way more than when he sold half the company. But
Crazy.
ESPN. So I think this is the funny thing about ESPN now moving forward. So when we're talking about over-unders, doing our weekly picks, you're like, oh, what's the line? You know, oh, it's Chargers 1.5. I'll put $2 down right now because it's because it'll just be right here. It'll be, oh, Chargers 2.5. Boop. You just put $2 in, right? That's what ESPN's going to do. And they're gonna trap people in that shit. And there's nothing wrong with it, right? If you're in a state that's legal to bet and you keep doing that, that's on you. You're making the decision, but like there's gonna be a lot of money to be made there because you're going.
I wonder if they'll put it directly on the fantasy app.
Ooh, Josh with a comment said everyone has a chance to win the Superflex League. Plenty of players to draft in a 10-man league. Agreed.
Thanks for making me feel like a piece of shit for not ever winning this league, Josh. Appreciate it. I am the longest tenured member of this league that hasn't won.
That's true. That is
I've
true.
been in this league
your dad's
since,
won too, right?
Inception. No, I don't believe he's won this league.
Oh yeah, because he didn't come in right away. I think even by the time I started playing it had been around for like 3 or 4 years, right?
Yeah, it'd been around for a minute.
Yeah, because
my dad and I are the only two that haven't won.
Yeah, because I started playing in 2012.
Yeah,
I've been in the league for 11 years. Holy shit!
We started this league. Was it college? Dad won once. Okay, so I am the only one that hasn't won.
Josh is making it worse.
Thanks.
A little salt
Appreciate
in the wound
that.
there from Josh Langman.
Why don't you just walk in here, bust the door down, and rip my heart out of my chest while you're at it?
Oh man, yeah. Fantasy football's here. Take your time. Don't start looking at take a gander at your top 100, 300 list, but just wait until give it 14 to 18 days.
No excuses. I'm number one.
I believe that's supposed to be number one. Yeah, you are the number one pick this year.
I am the number one pick this year.
Here's the thing is that drafting number one overall doesn't mean shit in fantasy football.
It really doesn't. You get one great player and then you're knocked down to the 26th or 25th, whatever it is.
You already said you went in the waiver wire, and I think a lot of this league is won in the middle rounds of who your position players are around your super flex.
Yeah. So
because here's I'm going to give away my secret because I've been in the league long enough, and I could do that now because I've shared it. I've won the league 2 times, and it's been solely on I just pay attention to what bye weeks are, because I cake in weeks 7 through 10 when a couple people don't pay attention, and I play those guys. I win with bad teams because people don't pay attention to the bye weeks. And if you have 1 or 2 players get hurt and you're just hitting the waiver wire, then you have to keep hitting the waiver wire, right? And you have to keep floating players in, and you're on a backup quarterback by then now, or you're on wide receiver 2 for a roster. And if I'm fully healthy and I'm playing, 2 quarterbacks instead of 3, I'm still at an advantage if you're playing 3 quarterbacks and 2 of them aren't the guy that started the season for the team.
Yeah.
Right?
I think – go ahead.
I was going to say, I'll just take my chances on having, let's say it's Joe Burrow and I don't know. I mean, Joe Burrow and Daniel Jones, right? If I'm playing a team that has like Sam Howell, Baltimore, Snoop Huntley, and I don't know, whoever's backing up Justin Fields in Chicago this year in case he's injured. Right, like I'll take my chances on 2 quarterbacks instead of 3 in those scenarios, and that's usually when I make my push, because historically, as a fantasy football player, I struggle in weeks like 1 through 4, and then weeks 5 towards like 11 or 12. That's when I kind of push back into games because I've thought about the bye weeks and I'm thinking about how I can fill roster needs and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I really try to limit the waiver wire early in the year unless I have somebody that I've drafted that's just
not panning out.
Right. Like, I drafted a guy from the Saints a couple years ago. I was really bought in on. Is it Callaway? Marquez Callaway?
Yeah, Marquez Callaway.
I was really bought in on him, and then Jameis Winston just decided he was never going to throw him the ball.
Was that the famous practice video here?
I think I don't remember when. I don't remember that. I don't know what year that was. I don't want to.
It was hilarious though.
Regardless. It was great. Yeah.
But yeah, no, Todd wins because of reduced injuries. Yeah. say what you want, but
I think it's not just injuries here.
I think my biggest mistake usually is like I think I can just go in and not do a ton of homework and still have a good draft. I need to actually commit and like have a game plan going into the draft of who I want when I want them.
Yeah, and the thing is like you got to go into that draft completely different than any other league, and that's where I struggle. Yeah. I struggled learning fantasy football because of that league, because that was the first. Yeah, that was the first fantasy football league I had done. So I went into other leagues, and I'm like, hey, why is nobody taking a quarterback in the first round?
Oh, Todd, you also finished 3rd last year, so your 20 is already in the pot.
God bless.
Yeah,
your boy didn't make all his money back last year, and that's the first time since 2016 that I did not make my money back. I was on a 6-year run of making cheese, and I did not make all my money back. So the commitment that I made to Mary,
an ATM for everybody else. That's what it's boiled down to for me. But no. So I am playing in a standard PPR league this year, so I will request your assistance whenever that draft comes along.
Is it a standard league or a PPR league?
It's a standard scoring, but there's also PPR.
Ooh. I'll have to see the rules. That sounds interesting.
So it's basically standard scoring, like 4 for passing, 6 for rushing, and then but receivers or everybody gets a point per catch.
A whole point?
I think.
Oh shit! God damn, that's saucy. That's saucy. There's a lot of points in that league, then.
I don't know. I haven't seen the entire rules yet.
Dude, that's fun. That's a high volume league. That's when you start seeing scores in like the 400s, and you're like, "Ooh, can I crack 500?"
No, I'm saying like 4 points per touchdown pass, 6 points per rushing touchdown.
No, I know, but if you're getting a point per catch, and you have Tyreek Hill, and he has a 10 for 200-yard day, that's like 75 points.
That's like Josh's league.
Yeah, but it's escalated when you do point per catch.
Josh's is a PPR league.
It's a point per reception?
Yeah, it's a 1.5.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I have to look back at that. I didn't realize it was that inflated. I just thought it was
1.5 per catch.
Shit, I didn't realize that. I just always I've always just drafted guy. Well, once I learned, I don't want to say always because I had to learn, but that I could just draft guys that just it's running backs that catch the ball a lot. Because I'm sure you remember I drafted Alvin Kamara every single year after his rookie year. Well, 4 years after his rookie year, and he got me. He that Christmas game for Alvin Kamara 2 years ago won me 2 leagues, and I'm so thankful for him. I'm saying he's going to be out for 3 weeks, but he's got to pay the penalty for duking it out with somebody in Vegas. Speaking of Vegas, did you see Henry Ruggs got sentenced today?
I did. Was it 3 to 10?
3 years minimum, 10 years max for Henry Ruggs for the DUI fatal crash that he was in a couple of years ago.
Can you imagine if that was you or I? Be life without parole.
I think it would be at least 25 years, yes. Because we can't afford to pay the best lawyer on the West Coast to defend, be out upon our defense.
Yeah.
But yeah, 3 to 10 years for Henry Ruggs. The rumor is that there are no wardens in the state of Nevada that are trying to put together football teams to play in a league. So I don't think we'll get a longest yard situation out of Henry Ruggs. But
do you think he does the minimum and comes back to the NFL?
Here's the thing: Michael Vick made it back, and I never thought he would come back. So I think anything's possible, man. Honestly, if he's not canceled by mainstream media, maybe. Right? I don't know if it's going to be canceled or not, though, because that's the thing. Michael Vick was in the midst of like the introduction of social media in sports. So I think people were more willing to accept him back in the league because he was so remorseful for his actions. But the thing is that there is footage of what Henry Ruggs did, right? That's gonna haunt him for the rest of his life. There's street cam footage of what happened with him and him trying to basically bounce from the scene of the crime. So,
it's just bad look all in general.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. Like, Damon Arnett's getting looks from teams, and he got a DUI and was basically blacklisted from the league, and now he might get signed again too. So I don't know. If he elects to try to come back after 3 years, dude, there's 2 other professional leagues that he could try to play in. I guarantee you The Rock would love to have him play in the XFL.
Give him a second chance.
Yes. That fits right into The Rock's mentality, right? We've all watched Ballers.
Yeah.
I think that I sometimes feel like when I watch him
show, by the way.
It's a great show. I feel like when I watch him do XFL stuff, I'm thinking of him in Ballers. So sometimes I forget that he's actually doing the XFL. I forget that that's like a real life thing. Oh man. Well, here's the thing, Charlie, is that Deshaun ain't ever spent a second in jail.
Nope.
Not a minute. Now, here's the thing. Hear me out. Is Michael Vick Burt Reynolds in this scenario?
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
Just the old faithful standing on the sidelines. 8 seconds left in the game. Vic puts a helmet on, goes, "Put me in there." And he just runs a Madden 04 just sideline to sideline for 18 seconds. I don't know.
Oh, is Ray Rice the running back?
Woo! Cream Hunt's back there somewhere too.
That'd be a hell of a backfield.
Yeah. Kareem Hunt. The Colts signed a different running back today than Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, strange.
Yeah, they signed a 7th string running back again to go with the rest of them if Jonathan Taylor doesn't come back.
The running back market is so crazy right now.
You have Dalvin Cook, Kareem Hunt, and Zeke Elliott out there. Just waiting for
nobody wants to touch it. And I'm trying to figure out why.
Dalvin Cook wants a lot of money still, right?
Well,
I think that's a big part of it. Dalvin Cook wants some cheese. Kareem Hunt is in a position where he's never gotten the big payday. Those Cook and Zeke got paydays, right? Kareem Hunt got in trouble before he got his big payday in Kansas City.
he did.
So he's still trying. He's fighting for money here. But if he ends up in New Orleans, he'll be there with Jamal Williams to start the year, and then, I mean, there's not really a spot for him once Kamara comes back, honestly. But they'll all find their way on a roster at some point in time. By week 4 or 5, there will likely be a running back that goes down. I hate to say it this way, but like there will be a running back or two that goes down. That
somebody's forced to sign him.
Yep. I could see somebody trying to, a third down back goes down. I could see a team going out and grabbing Zeke for the rest of the year to bring him in those tough situations. Or, if you're a team like imagine a team like the Chargers if Austin Eckler goes down and Kareem Hunt's out there, right? Like that's a no-brainer.
Well, as a member of the NFC or AFC North, I'm happy that Kareem Hunt is no longer Brown.
Yeah. It doesn't hurt my feelings.
Yeah, no, him and Chubb in that backfield is disgusting, and I'm glad that that's no longer a thing.
Yep. Brown's backfield is much different this year than it has been in years past. I mean, Nick Chubb is, to me, now the best running back in the NFL.
Hands down.
I think Jerome Ford is going to be a much different approach for that offense, but I also think that the Browns will change their approach with Deshaun Watson this year than they did last year.
It's going to be a more pass-heavy approach. For sure.
Yeah, you have an athlete in the backfield, and just Deshaun Watson. He's proven that he can.
Well, yeah, I mean, you don't need Kareem Hunt because now you have Nick Chubb and Deshaun Watson. And the great thing about Deshaun Watson is he can do almost what Kareem Hunt did, and he can also throw the ball 60 yards down the field, 70 yards down the field accurately.
It's true.
So, yeah, it's gonna be interesting. There's a couple guys, I know this doesn't apply to everybody, but in that super flex league that I'm interested to see where they go. Deshaun Watson is one of them.
Me too.
I'm interested to see where he goes. I'm interested to see how high Lamar Jackson is drafted. I still think Lamar goes in the first round at some point.
Yeah. Well, again, it's if you're a good runner in that league, which Jalen, Justin, Lamar, those are your 3 guys and Josh Allen, kind of your 4 guys that fall into that. They get yards on the ground too. Like,
yeah,
you want those guys, right? Obviously, like Pat Mahomes is good in that league because he's good for 300 and a couple tutties pretty much every game almost. And he doesn't turn the ball over. Well, I guess turnovers don't matter in that league, but he's good for tutties. But yeah, I mean, like you get a guy like a Justin Fields or a Lamar, how many? And here's the thing: is that Buffalo's run game isn't a lot better. And how many games was? And I had Josh Allen. How many games was he their leading rusher last year? A lot. Several weeks. So I like it. I like Justin Fields in that league Josh Allen in that league specifically for that.
So let's flip the script a little bit. We've been talking a lot about this league that not a lot of people know anything about. Standard leagues. If you've got the first 3 picks, who are the first 3 people off the board? In your opinion,
Tyreek Hill.
Really?
Yeah.
In a standard league?
Yeah. He'll average over 100 yards a game. He doesn't turn the ball over a lot. He doesn't fumble a lot. He occasionally runs the ball. Lot of points there. Justin Jefferson, somebody that does well in a standard league. I would love to say Derrick Henry, but I can't say that anymore because I think Tennessee's going to be a hot bag of garbage.
Yeah. So who's your first running back off the board? Yeah, like Eckler, Chubb, McCaffrey, Barkley.
Christian McCaffrey, probably.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe it's just like history in my brain, but like I'm so scared to draft anybody from the Giants, and that includes Saquon Barkley, because he's just always been hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, McCaffrey's had injuries too, but yeah, running back wise, I would say McCaffrey is your best bet if you're going to draft a running back in the first round of a standard league. I think Nick Chubb will be of a better value than he has been of years past because he'll get more touches.
Yeah,
because he's not. I mean, him sharing the backfield with Jerome Ford is significantly different than sharing the backfield with Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, because Kareem Hunt can start.
Yeah, I think Jamar Chase is a good wide receiver to draft in a standard league in the first round. Also, I mean, Josh said Austin Eckler's money in any league that you're in. He's money.
Yeah,
because he does everything.
He's always a beast.
I think a sleeper this year is Breece Hall for the Jets.
God, I hope that knee just comes back and is okay.
And I think Travis Etienne Jr. is another one of those guys that people need to really think about in the second round, third round.
Dude, I think Trevor Lawrence goes very high in a lot of leagues this year.
I think
higher than expected.
I think that in an 8-man league, he would be one of the 8 quarterbacks drafted. I agree with you on that. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
There's so much, especially with Calvin Ridley down there now. Have you seen what Calvin Ridley's been doing in practice?
Dude, Jacksonville's a team in the AFC where
Scary.
It makes me nervous.
Scary good.
Because
that
Christian
defense
Kirk
is also very good.
It's better. And I think Christian Kirk's a guy too. Like you couple him with Ridley and he's more comfortable in that second spot in the depth chart. Like Evan Ingram's back. So Jacksonville is all riding on health, right?
Yes.
Ingram's historically injured. Ridley's had his issues. Etienne's had issues. So it'll be, I don't know what
it's going to be interesting.
After that.
And I'll tell you, I think of the sophomore wide receivers this year, Garrett Wilson will be the best receiver in football.
Oh, he's a dog. 1,000-yard.
Garrett Wilson will be the best receiver in football. That is my bold prediction.
Yeah. Dude,
for
Garrett
the sophomore
Wilson
class, that is.
Garrett Wilson getting the ball from Aaron Rodgers is way different than him getting the ball from.
He's getting it from Aaron Rodgers. 2, he is literally going toe-to-toe with the best cover corner in the league in practice every single day.
Ooh, you think Sauce is the best cover corner in the league? Is that what you're saying right now?
Who was better than him last year?
I like it. Look, I'm not trying to argue with you.
I'm asking a serious question. Like who was at his level last year? That dude didn't allow a catch for the first 10 games or 12 games, whatever it was.
Yeah,
a touchdown.
I mean, there's still some dogs out there, but I see what if we're just talking purely statistics, you're right. Sauce Gardner was the best cornerback in the league.
Yeah. I mean,
so
those 2 young guys making each other better every day in practice. I mean, that's
for sure.
The Jets have I don't want to continue to stroke the Jets, but they've got something special there this year.
AFC East is going to be tough, brother. It's going to be tough. I think the Dolphins got it for the most part. I still think their running game sucks. When was
the last time that division was like exciting to watch?
Yeah,
like the division as a collective. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I follow you. Yeah. It's funny to think that the Patriots are going to be in last place in the AFC East. I don't think it's close.
They're going to be the worst division. They're going to be the worst team in that division for sure.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting, man, because you look at a team like the Dolphins, like I said, and you have 2 of the top 10 wide. Kendra, thanks for liking the stream. 2 of the top 10 wide.
What up, Kendra?
Right, with Waddle and Tyreek, 2 of the top 15, I guess. I don't want to give Jalen too much credit. But the running game still sucks, man. That's where I get a little hairy on the Dolphins. Is still the running game's just it's kind of lax there. So
yes, man. Football. Josh said Jalen Ramsey and Patrick Peterson.
5 years ago. Sure, let's talk about it.
Yeah, Patrick Peterson he's still good. I love that the Steelers have Patrick Peterson now. But he's not who he used to be. Not saying he's still not a valuable, piece to have on the team, but he's not. He doesn't have the young legs anymore. There's some age and some wear and tear in there. So,
yeah, I agree with you. I'm looking at Josh. Thanks for liking the stream, my brother. Appreciate you. I don't know, man. I guess I would say back to the cornerback conversation. If we're talking about people to compete with Sauce, I think you got to put Darius Slay in the conversation now after the year he had last year.
for sure.
I guess I'm talking historically here, but
Let's see
Stephon Gilmore has to be in the conversation.
Tre'Davious White is a good one.
Yeah. Patrick Surtain the second. I think Jair Alexander is another guy too. People don't talk about a lot. Marshawn
Sauce,
Lattimore.
Derek Slay, Jair Alexander, Stephon Gilmore. Yep.
J.C. Horn on the Panthers. I think he's another guy you got to think about being in that conversation. But no, dude, look, I think you look at Sauce's top three. Any way you spin it, you can put him in a top three conversation of defensive backs in the league. So I wouldn't argue with you on that regardless. But yeah, you're right. I mean, Garrett Wilson getting the right quarterback throwing the ball to him is
scary.
That's a big difference, man. That's a big difference. But again, they got to play the Bills twice. They got to play the Dolphins twice, and that's those are two tough teams to beat twice in a year. The Dolphins defense is still good.
It's crazy how the AFC is so much better than the NFC.
I think that yeah. So right. So I think the NFC has the larger disparity from bottom. Like there's the top
to bottom.
3 or 4, right?
Yeah.
You have like Philadelphia, San Francisco. I think you talk about Detroit being in that conversation of top 5 teams in the NFC this year.
I honestly, I would argue them top 3.
Yeah, Dallas. I think Dallas is going to bounce back really nicely this year too. Just they're sharing the division with the best team in the NFC right now. But the NFC South is bad as a whole.
Garbage.
The NFC West is kind of up in arms minus San Francisco. Who knows what Geno Smith is going to be this year? Right? Was that an anomaly?
If he can do what he did last year, I would consider it a win because that's consistency.
And he's got Jackson Smith and Jigba now. You know, I don't toss around Ohio State players too often, but
I know you're very fond of him.
That boy's nice. He can ball. I think that's a steal when you have two guys like Lockett and DK Metcalf to get a guy like Jackson Smith and Jigba.
They do have a pretty sick receiving core out there.
It's good, man. They have the only thing that's going to hurt them is that the running back room is so hurt all the time that they're going to force Geno Smith to throw the ball a lot, and I think that's where things kind of fall out for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, you look at the NFC. Other than that, dude, it's kind of hairy. I think Green Bay's due for a bad year. Chicago's in the rebuild, right? I mean, they signed a ton of free agents, but
Chicago will be good if they let Justin Fields be Justin Fields.
Well, they got to figure out what that offense is. They got to figure out what it is because I don't think there's an answer there yet.
Whatever Justin Fields did towards the end of last season, that's the offense. He was amazing.
I don't foresee Minnesota having that good of luck 2 years in a row.
Yeah, I mean, and their running game is not going to be what it was either. So, Justin Jefferson can only do so much.
Yeah, the Commanders are starting Sam Howell, so I don't know. Maybe Sam Howell is going to do something, but I just don't trust a 5th-round quarterback doing it. And I think I think with the Eagles and the Cowboys being so good, I think the Giants struggle more this year than they did last year. I do.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved what Brian Daboll did with the team last year, but
a great coach.
Does Geno go first round in standard or PPR? No, absolutely not.
Geno Smith? Is that what he's talking about?
Yeah.
No.
Geno probably wouldn't. If he went, he probably wouldn't go until like 8th or 9th as a backup.
Yeah, so I think that if you're looking at
round,
if you're looking at a standard 10-team league, I I don't think he's your starting quarterback. I think he's if you're in a league where guys are drafting backups for safety, I think he's fine. But he's certainly a good early. If you have a quarterback early on the bye and you have a wide receiver or a running back that's underperforming, he's an easy, quick flip on the waiver wire to grab for a week or two, and then you can supplement like. So for instance, I used him last year in a league because I drafted Kyler Murray. Right, so I did bad. In that league, I did bad. So I picked up Geno Smith off the waiver wire in week 4, excuse me, when bye week started. So then I was able to basically sub in Geno for the rest of the year. He was my quarterback one for the rest of the year. But in a normal standard league, no. Or a standard PPR or standard or PPR, I don't think so. But dude, there's too many good young quarterbacks in the league right now. Like you can't in a 12-man league, maybe he's the 12th quarterback, right? Maybe. But you got to think, man, look at like the AFC West. You got Justin Herbert and Pat Mahomes. You got Joe Burrow in the AFC North. You got Josh Allen. I think Jared. I mean, looking offensively at Detroit, you got to think about Jared Goff in that conversation for somebody taken of one of the 10 quarterbacks. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is going to be in that conversation regardless. Maybe he's the 10th quarterback in a 10-man league, but we just talked about Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence gets drafted over a guy like Geno Smith.
Oh, for sure.
But it's a good gosh. I just think that
it depends on who's drafting though. You might have a person.
Jalen Hurts. God, I didn't even say Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts should be drafted for most leagues, he should be the second or third quarterback drafted. So
oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
He gets a lot of rushing touchdowns.
He does.
So,
he does. Yeah.
For a standard league, that's a double. So if you got a quarterback that runs a lot of touchdowns in.
Just notice I didn't say Russell Wilson because he's already lost 2 of his wide receivers for the whole year. Tim Patrick, KJ Hamler, both out.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough one for them. So
Bronco country is not gonna be riding around. Right, they're not gonna be riding in the elevation this year. I actually feel
Kendra's sorry to hear that one. She's a Denver fan.
Sorry to hear that the Broncos and the Rockies are both going to disappoint you for a couple. Honestly, I think until the Broncos try to figure out a way to get out of this Russell Wilson thing, I think they're kind of fucked. But
they need to figure out a way to get Elway out of that front office.
He's gone. They did it. It's done.
They finally did it. Okay.
Yes, they did. They did that before the draft.
Okay, I'm sorry. I must have missed that.
He is a consultant, I believe, for the Broncos now. That's just a glorified way of saying, like, if you want to come to meetings, you can, but
you have zero influence on decision making.
We hear you, but we don't agree with you. But we hear you. We hear what you're saying.
We respect that you brought us Super Bowls. Thank you.
I was looking up a stat last week with Aaron. I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit here, but
okay. Who
was the last running back to win a Super Bowl MVP?
Is it Terrell Davis?
It's Terrell Davis. Do you know what year that was?
1998.
That's right. Because Aaron and I got really in depth on the whole Jonathan Taylor.
You know where I watched that football game?
Where you watched it?
Here, I'm going to put you on the spot. Where did I watch that football game, and who did I watch it with?
Well, you lived on Banker at the time, so you probably watched it with Corey at Corey's house.
I sure did.
Yeah.
Me and Josh and Corey were all watching it in his living room. Next door neighbors.
It's crazy, dude. I think
wild.
Yeah. But Aaron and I were just discussing the whole Jonathan Taylor running backs deserve more money. Irsay comes out and says that's where that came from. But
was it Rappaport today that sent out a tweet, or was it somebody that was like maybe it was Ari Marov that was like they were so flexible with Andrew Luck and they could have taken $25 million from Andrew Luck, and now they're taking this very strong stance
That was yesterday. That was
guy that's got it done for them year in and year out and has been their workhorse. Like, I don't know. It was a very good point because, like, what has Jonathan Taylor done for this franchise that Andrew Luck did better? Like, I mean, I understand Andrew Luck was a solid quarterback.
Game. That's it. Win a playoff game. That's real.
That's
I don't know if Andrew Luck ever went to the. Actually, I don't know that.
That's my point. Like, Jonathan Taylor has been just as important to that franchise as Andrew Luck was, and they're treating Jonathan Taylor much differently. Which, I mean, I get the running back market is what it is, and I know Irsay is a businessman, but like, that dude took a fucking shit kicking for the last 3 years because they didn't have anything else. They tried Phillip Rivers, that was a disaster. They tried Matt Ryan, that was an even bigger disaster. Yeah. And Jonathan Taylor was the only good thing about that team.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just looking at it. So he won 4 playoff games for the Colts, and Jonathan Taylor won 0. So maybe that's it. But
running back can't win the game for you.
I hear you. I
don't know. I just thought it was an interesting point.
I'll honestly, a lot of it comes down to overpaying for a position. Whereas
when Dallas gave Zeke that contract, everybody was like, "That's a fucking mistake."
Yes, dude. Yes, like of course. That was kind of my foundation of, like, I see where, like, Jonathan Taylor, Najee Harris, Saquon Barkley, I see that side of where they're coming from, specifically JT and Saquon, where they really are the centerpiece of the offense. I don't think for Najee, it's kind of it's still up in the air because I don't know what Kenny Pickett's going to be, but how can Jim Irsay say, like, hey, I don't want to pay this guy more money when you're throwing out a rookie quarterback? You didn't draft him another wide receiver or another, top tier wide receiver, and your defense isn't as good as it was a year prior.
No,
you didn't make you.
The one highlight of your team isn't going to be on the field.
Yeah, he's a 1,000-yard rusher, and you have to replace him with 3 people. That's what they've done
to get that production.
And the icing on the cake for Irsay was that and I hate that Hines broke his forearm and he's going to miss a few weeks, but, like, you put yourself in the situation where you were going to DFI a guy that's done nothing but be productive for you, and all you're doing is taking a firm stance because he and his agent have been public with their opinion on things. I think a lot of times owners don't like people being outspoken for themselves or advocating for themselves in those scenarios. And Andrew Luck's, a lot of what he did, and I fucking hate the way that he had to retire, but a lot of what he did was done with humility, right? And imagine, 6 years ago or 5 years ago when that happened, if Irsay was like, you know what, Andrew Luck had this neck injury, we're just not going to pay him. He would have gotten completely ridiculed. But there's a lot of people in the way of the world today that are like, yeah, somebody's asking for more money. Well, fuck them. You don't have to pay them. Right?
Yeah.
I'm saying it in very simple terms. I'm not trying to overcomplicate.
No, I get your point. Yeah, I mean, it makes complete sense. I think maybe the one change whenever it comes back up in the CBA for them is maybe running backs get a much more lucrative rookie contract because their life isn't that long in the NFL. So maybe as opposed to them coming in and making 10, they can make 25 to 30 a year.
But again,
you're handcuffing teams to draft picks.
But you already
may
said
or may not pan out. So
the shelf life of a running back is so small.
That's the only way they get paid. That's what I'm saying. Is like that's the only way they can get paid is if they actually get like a good rookie contract.
Yeah, and the second life for a running back is so limited. It's so limited.
The
How
biggest
many?
the biggest thing that teams need to do is they need to get them brand deals. Like if you want to, you need to supplement their pay somehow. Like, okay, you're only going to pay them, the market, which is what, 10 to 15 million, depending on the running back. Like
Top tiers over
supplement
12.
brand deals, get them a deal with fucking Subway or Sprint or, Jersey Mike's, get Danny DeVito out of there. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, he's 100. I whenever I think of Jersey Mike's, I don't want to think of Danny DeVito. Sorry, but I don't want to go to Jersey Mike's and order a Big Kahuna and think about a really old short guy with weird hair. But
I get. I don't. Unfortunately, right now, I think that there's no. The right answer to you is the wrong answer to somebody else, and then
everybody's got an opinion.
And again, it all comes down to what's business is business. Where's your ROI come in? And right now, the return on investment on a more than a 3-year deal for a running back is low because there's not. Are there any running backs in the league right now over 10 years that still are like true RB1?
The only one that I can think of that maybe made it an entire decade was AP.
Yeah, he's done, right? He's done. He's an anomaly. Done. Yeah. Derrick Henry's close. That's kind of it.
Yeah. Those are the only two I can think of. Because, I mean, even guys like, way back in the day, going back, like Sean Alexander, like he had like a 3-year window where he was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was his whole career. Then he had those foot issues. Emmitt Smith is a unicorn. Like,
Yeah. Brian Westbrook, those guys, like the shelf life
Brian
is
Westbrook,
low because you're getting
heart
hit.
And soul of the Eagles.
You just get hit 30 times a game, man. Like it's just like a linebacker now, right? Like inside
Josh, good point. Frank Gore, Curtis Martin, like those guys. I don't know. Maybe they were just built different. I mean, I drafted Frank Gore and he broke his hip that year. Like, right. And then he came back and played.
Frank Gore had a lot of health issues several years, and he ended up spending a lot of time in the twilight of his career being a backup. But Curtis Martin's a good example because he had some healthy years in New York. He had a couple unhealthy years. He goes to New England, gets a Super Bowl. He spent a couple years there. But
Jerome Bettis. Yeah, he was.
But again, these guys you're talking early 2000s right now, dude. Frank Gore obviously played a little bit later on, but like, again, he probably had 6 years where he was like real starting running back, getting big touches, et cetera. Yeah.
Marshawn Lynch.
He retired and came back.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just trying to throw names out there. But yeah, in this new era of football, running backs, it's
look at Carolina. They gave McCaffrey that big contract, and then what did they do? They traded him. They had to. If you're looking at the business of football, you don't want to get handcuffed by a running back contract.
You'll get handcuffed by a quarterback, but not a running back.
Yeah, you don't want to get handcuffed by a running back contract because that means you're paying your wide receivers less, or you're paying less, or you're paying an edge rusher less. And that's important. The Cowboys released Zeke because they know they're going to have to pay Micah Parsons. Right? And CeeDee Lamb. Like,
as they should.
Yeah, they should pay those guys. Corey Dillon's another good one. He had healthy years in Cincinnati and also New England. I think he was he after Curtis Martin in New England? Let me look that up. Let me fact check myself here real fast.
That's a good question.
Let's see. I keep.
Yeah, I mean, look at a guy like Todd Gurley.
Curtis Martin went Pats to Jets. I had him flip flopped. He was drafted by the Patriots and then went to the Jets.
Yeah, Todd Gurley is the recent one that had one good year and then fell off the map.
He had a couple good years, and then he developed early onset arthritis.
That's wild.
It completely ruined his career. You could say the same thing about Steven Jackson too, if we're talking about
Steven
running backs here.
Wow.
Yeah, that was who Todd Gurley replaced in St. Louis.
It was because Steven Jackson went to Atlanta, didn't he?
That's right.
Wow.
Yep. That is correct, sir. But
that's crazy.
Yeah, the whole running back conversation, that in itself could be 2 hours of a debate.
Oh,
it
yeah,
really
for
could.
Sure.
Yeah.
We've talked about it long enough. Well, I know next week we're going to try to come in with our over-unders because we got the season schedule.
Yep.
We've got everything laid out. We're going to try to get all 4 of us on the show next week. I know that we were attempting to do that this week. Schedules did not line up. So we're going to try to do our, back to football, back to football show next week with all 4 members of the RTS squad here. Should be a good one. We'll keep you posted on whether or not that's actually going to come to fruition. But Todd, do you have anything else?
No, I think that's podcast, man.
Yeah, I think that is. Josh, thank you for all the comments, man, and keeping the conversation rolling. Kendra, thank you for swinging through. Pops, thank you. Rob, thanks for popping in as well. Carl, everybody that liked the video, you guys are awesome. Hopefully the 4 of us will see you next week. Regardless, there will be a show, so make sure you tune in. We'll keep you posted on whether or not it's going to be Wednesday or Thursday. But at this point, we're going to sign off for the evening. Have a wonderful weekend. Todd, Bobby, we're Rally Towel Sports. Catch you next week. Peace.